Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to dive into something absolutely crucial. We are setting the stage for a massive paradigm shift in how we actually understand emotional resilience. You know, when life just gets overwhelmingly stressful, how do you stay grounded? Today, we're exploring a fascinating concept, inner peace in Islam. And let me tell you, this isn't just about feeling calm or zen. We're looking at a deeply structured system that literally transforms how you respond to stress, conflict, and uncertainty. Let's get right into it.
Now, most of us hear the words inner peace, and we instantly picture withdrawing into this protective little bubble, right? Becoming quiet, maybe a bit passive, or completely disconnected from the world. But here's the reality check. True inner peace is actually like a heavy anchor in the middle of a massive storm. It is the absolute presence of steadiness. It's about maintaining crystal clear clarity when the pressure is really on. So it's definitely not weakness. It is true strength. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to take a 5-part journey together. First, redefining stillness as strength. Second, anchoring the heart. Third, peace under pressure. Fourth, how peace becomes action. And finally, number 5, the system of inner peace.
All right, starting with part 1, redefining stillness as strength. First things first, we really need to clear the slate on what people mistakenly think peace looks like. Inner peace in Islam, it's not just a temporary mood that comes and goes depending on, whether you had your morning coffee. It is absolutely not emotional numbness or just shutting down. And maybe most importantly, it's definitely not a life with zero problems or pain. The Islamic framework doesn't ask your heart to stop being human. It doesn't ask you to completely avoid pain. So we are completely throwing out that myth of a problem-free peace right now.
So the crucial point is, what is it then? Well, inner peace is defined as a settled relationship between the heart and what is true. It's not some fleeting feeling. It's a state of alignment. It's really about giving the heart a solid center that simply doesn't move every single time your circumstances change.
It all boils down to this core idea. Stillness is not the absence of action. It is the presence of steadiness. Think about those beautiful historic stone buildings you see in ancient cities. They don't shout for attention, right? But they hold their shape through blazing heat, immense pressure, and literal centuries of time. They don't survive by dodging the weather. They survive because of their foundational steadiness. And that, my friends, is exactly the kind of stillness we're talking about here.
Moving right along to Section 2, Anchoring the Heart.
And this brilliantly illustrates what gives the heart unshakable stability. Think of a compass. A compass doesn't magically make the ocean flat, does it? But if you have it, you have direction. In this framework, a heart tuned to Allah maintains its vital reference point even when ordinary, chaotic events throw everything else into total confusion. If your compass is broken, like say you're being pulled by fear or pride or worrying about what other people think, even a tiny shift in the wind is going to send you wildly off course.
Now, if you build your foundation on sand, you're essentially demanding control from a world that just cannot guarantee it. You're relying on outcomes and people, and while we all know those are constantly changing, inner peace actually begins the exact moment a person stops demanding from creation what only the Creator can provide. On the flip side, building on solid rock means accepting uncertainty because you are anchored in lasting truth. You might not know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, but you know exactly who is in control.
Let's see how this builds when we hit Section 3, Peace Under Pressure.
We're going to put this anchored heart to the ultimate test. Think of your heart kind of like a sponge. The pressure itself doesn't create what comes out of it. A squeezed sponge merely reveals what it's already holding inside. When the pressure is on, a restless heart produces panic, bitterness, blame, and those impulsive reactions we all regret. But a peaceful heart, squeezed by the exact same pressure, it produces patience, clear judgment, restraint, and absolute dignity. The stress really just proves what your foundation is built on.
So, to wrap this concept up, remember these 3 foundational truths. First, peace is an alignment, not just a feeling. Second, it allows for pain without total collapse, so it's definitely not numbness. And third, it replaces the desperate need for control with absolute trust. Think of a little child in a really crowded, noisy room. They don't have a map of the place, they have no idea where the exits are, but they feel completely secure simply because they're holding their parent's hand. They don't need to control the entire environment, they just know they aren't alone.
Let's shift our focus outward in Section 4, How Peace Becomes Action.
This brings us to a really vital question. If inner peace is this inward state, this internal alignment, how does the rest of the world actually see it? I really want you to consider this for a second. What kind of action comes out of a heart that is no longer panicking? It's definitely not passive. In fact, it is profoundly deliberate.
Now, what's really fascinating here is where the magic actually happens. It happens right in the middle, in what we'll call the powerful gap. When something upsetting happens, an insult, a sudden delay, a major crisis, a restless heart jumps straight from the stimulus to a frantic reaction. Boom, instant explosion. But peace? Peace creates a crucial delay. It carves out a space that essentially says, hey, let me not be ruled by my very first feeling here. And you know what? That little gap is exactly where wisdom and dignity live.
And right inside that gap, we find restraint. Now make sure you don't confuse this with suppression, because they are entirely different beasts. Suppression is just flat out denying you're angry. Restraint, on the other hand, is feeling the anger, fully acknowledging it, but consciously choosing what is fitting. Imagine a super tense family dispute, say back in Pakistan, over money or expectations. We've all been in situations like this. The room is hot, the tea is cold, everyone is just highly emotional. Suppression is burying it until you literally explode later. A restless reaction is screaming right back. But the peaceful response? It is utilizing that powerful gap. It's pausing, choosing the right time to speak, refusing to speak from insult, and instead delivering the truth with absolute dignity.
Okay, bringing it all together now. Section 5, the system of inner peace.
Let's map this entire system out. If you picture inner peace as a wheel, the center hub is your absolute foundation. Trust in Allah. The spokes that radiate outward from that hub, those are your attitudes, things like patience, gratitude, and humility. And then there's the rim, right where the rubber meets the road. That's your visible behavior, your speech, your decisions, your restraint. Now think about it. If the center hub is weak or misaligned, the whole wheel is going to wobble the second it hits a bump. But with a solid, stable center, the entire structure of a person's life rolls smoothly, even when the terrain gets really rough.
Because of that super stable center, peace and courage are actually siblings. A lot of people think courage means having absolutely zero fear, but actually, scratch that, that's not true at all. Courage is simply being anchored enough to act while the fear is still sitting right there next to you. Both peace and courage stem from a heart that just refuses to be enslaved by panic.
So what does this all mean for us? We're going to end today with a new lens for you to look through. The very next time stress hits, the next time conflict rises, or some big uncertainty looms over you, don't just jump to judging your own panic behavior. Step back and diagnose your foundation. I want you to really ask yourself, when the pressure comes, what is your heart actually trusting? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this framework gives you a deeper, calmer, and significantly more resilient way to navigate the storms of life. Catch you next time.